Welcome to Harmony Hall Academy, a boarding school where no one ever truly lives, not for long. Years ago, in the city of Edoma in Eroa State, there lived an affluent couple, Baron and his dazzling wife, Leona, the beloved rose of the people. They resided in a grand mansion barricaded by iron walls as tall as Iroko trees and guarded by monstrous dogs the size of leopards. Their security was intimidating, stone-faced and built like gladiators. Together, they had two daughters, the stunning but defiant Delia and Cassie. Baron and Leona were admired as the ultimate power couple. Women idolized Leona, and men sought Baron's counsel. They were philanthropists, or so it seemed, owning schools, clinics, orphanages, and countless properties. Their humanitarian programs empowered thousands of women and youth across the state. They were Edoma's version of royalty, followed by cameras, praised by the media. Sundays were for showy worship services, their family image pristine. But inside their fortified mansion, darkness reigned. Behind those majestic walls were horrors unspoken. Their most twisted secret, a special boarding school masquerading as a haven for underprivileged girls aged 14 to 19. To the world, it was a rare opportunity for poor girls to receive elite education. In truth, it was a breeding ground. There was no curriculum, no exams, only forced compliance and stolen innocence. These girls were groomed under Leona's honeyed lies and motherly warmth. Once they stepped inside the iron gates, they vanished from the world. No holidays, no phone calls, no return. A prison without bars. The first girl to fall prey was a bright 16-year-old named Marie, a hardworking orphan from Guma village. She sold jollof rice near Leona's empowerment center. Leona observed her for weeks, feeding her, gifting pocket change until she had Marie's trust. The woman from TV had chosen her. With visions of education and escape from poverty, Marie followed Leona to a luxurious house with flat-screen TVs, silk sheets, and maids at her call. After days of pampering, she was told it was time to start school. Marie never imagined that school meant her freedom would be erased. Once inside Harmony Hall, there was no escape. Surveillance was tight. Her future was stolen. Her children taken the moment they were born. She was one of many. Next came Lulu, a 17-year-old from a local orphanage. Leona had simply requested to enroll her in a scholarship program. The orphanage director handed her over with joy, not realizing it sealed her fate. Then came Zainab, Tari, Efia, each girl snared by empty promises or outright kidnapped. The school grew to over 200 students. Parents, unaware of the horror, begged for their daughters to be selected. But Leona never picked girls with families, only those no one would miss. Then came the turning point. One night, Delia and Cassie slipped out to attend a secret party with their boyfriends. Baron and Leona were asleep. The girls laughed, danced, drank, and unknowingly consumed something sinister. Their boyfriends were part of Leona's recruiting web. The plan was to drug and deliver girls to Harmony Hall, but this time they took the wrong prey. Delia and Cassie awoke behind the same iron gates their parents had built. The trap had turned on its creators. Delia and Cassie, now trapped like the others, endured the horrors of Harmony Hall. Starvation, fear, and the stench of grief. Back at the estate, Leona rose early and headed to her daughter's rooms, only to find the beds untouched. Panic surged. The entire mansion was thrown into disarray. By midday, Baron had mobilized a small army, detectives, police units, even the Coast Guard. But nothing. Days melted into weeks. Every trail went cold. Baron and Leona assumed abduction. Leona's blood pressure spiked. They called priests to fast. They made sacrifices in moonlit forests. They consulted oracles, bathed in sacred streams. Still, no sign of the girls. Meanwhile, their own flesh and blood suffered in the dungeon they created for others. 3 months of agony passed before a trembling call came through. It was the head matron from the school. Madam, one of the new girls is very ill. We've done all we can, she said. Leona, exhausted and desperate, snapped. If you can't handle one sick girl, then let her die. I'm done, she barked. She didn't realize that girl, gasping for breath, limbs trembling from untreated asthma, was Cassie, her own daughter. Days passed. The matron begged again. Baron, too, dismissed her. One quiet evening, Cassie died, cradled in Delia's arms. No screams, no miracles, just another girl, gone. Her body was dumped in the shadowed field behind the dormitory, lost in the graveyard of forgotten daughters. Business resumed as usual, but not for Delia. She cried, screamed in silence. This wasn't just horror now. It was personal. Her twin was gone, taken by the very machine their parents built. A month later, on a routine inspection, Leona stormed into the school like royalty. The girls were lined up for her gaze. Then, "Mommy!" The voice sent a lightning bolt through the room. Leona's eyes locked with Delia's. Everything crashed. Her knees gave way. She fled in tears, unable to face the child she had unknowingly damned. Delia was escorted home. Back at the mansion, Leona confessed everything. Baron wept as Delia told them what happened, how Cassie gasped and begged for breath until the end. Goosebumps spread like wildfire. That girl, the sick one weeks ago, Baron whispered. They collapsed, shattered, destroyed by their own evil. Why were you in that school? Delia pressed. Why are girls there at all? Tell the police. But they had no answers, only tears and silence. That night, Delia couldn't sleep. Her sister's face haunted her. Guilt burned, but grief sparked resolve. The next morning, she hailed a cab and walked into police headquarters. They doubted her until she said her name. When they realized who she was, the tide turned. She told everything, the deception, the terror, the hidden graves. She knew the way. Every turn burned in her memory. A police operation was launched. When they reached Harmony Hall, the truth bared its rotten teeth. It wasn't a school. It was a baby factory. One by one, officers arrested the guards, the staff, and whisked the girls to safety. Hospitals overflowed. The media caught wind. The city erupted in disbelief and rage. The empire Baron and Leona built with lies and sorrow crumbled in a single day. That same day, the police took Harmony Hall staff in for questioning. One by one, they cracked. Under the weight of evidence and conscience, they confessed they'd been hired and well paid to run the school in secret. And at the center of it all, Baron and Leona. Word of the baby trafficking operation spread like wildfire. Social media buzzed. News anchors wept on air. Baron and Leona, realizing their empire had crumbled, attempted to flee the country. But at the airport, immigration and police intercepted them. They were dragged back to Edoma in cuffs. At first, they denied everything. Smoke screens, lies. But investigators were relentless, pulling financial records, phone logs, testimonies. Eventually, under pressure, Leona broke. Tears streamed as she confessed everything, how she lured vulnerable girls, how midwives were paid to inseminate them. and how their babies were sold for a fortune to elite hospitals and desperate couples. She exposed their so-called empowerment centers as fronts for money laundering and illicit trade. Her full confession was broadcast live. The country was shaken. Faces they once admired were now synonymous with horror. Cornered by Leona's admission, Barron too caved in. The court showed no mercy. The couple and their accomplices were sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor. The courtroom echoed with cries, some of relief, others of pain. The government launched a national recovery initiative. Survivors were enrolled in therapy, granted full scholarships, and placed in supportive homes by genuine NGOs. The clinics involved were shut down and investigated. Barron and Leona's vast empire was dismantled, assets seized and redirected toward public welfare. A specialized task force was formed to root out similar crimes across the country, determined to ensure that another Harmony Hall would never rise again. Hi, sweet souls. What a story, right? But it's more than just a story. This tale, though fictionalized in parts, reflects real pain, real corruption, and the real danger lurking behind smiling faces and charity banners. Let's protect our children. Let's ask the hard questions. Let's be vigilant. The moral, don't throw stones in the marketplace. You never know whom they might strike. Evil has a way of circling back. So, what lessons did you take from this chilling tale? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe so others don't miss this truth wrapped in story. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.